Welcome to my channel where I delve into the mysteries of the deep sea. So grab your diving gear and join me on this thought provoking journey to uncover the haunting reality of a submarine's implosion at Titanic depth. Artificial intelligence explains in morbid detail what would happen to a man's body if he was in a submarine at Titanic depth while it imploded. A submersible would be under immense pressure at the depth of the Titanic wreckage, which lies about 2.37 miles, which is 3.81 kilometers below the surface. At this depth, the pressure is over 370 times atmospheric pressure, or about 5,500 pounds per square inch. If the submersible were to suddenly implode, the effect on the human body inside will be catastrophic. The sudden compression of the environment around the man would almost instantaneously crush his body. This wouldn't be a gradual process, it would happen in less than a second due to the enormous and immediate change in pressure. The body would be subjected to rapid compression, causing immediate and severe trauma. Essentially, every part of the body that contains gas, including the lungs and the gastrointestinal tract, would be crushed or imploded. The water pressure would also force water into body cavities such as the nose, mouth, and ears. This rapid compression could cause severe internal injuries, including hemorrhage and organ damage. Due to the speed of the implosion, it's unlikely the individual would experience much, if any, pain. Unconsciousness would likely occur almost instantaneously due to the severe trauma and lack of oxygen. In terms of visual details, the implosion would cause an immense shock wave in the water, creating a sudden cloud of debris consisting of the destroyed submersible and, unfortunately, the remains of the occupant. Following the implosion, the water would rapidly rush back into the void, contributing further to the turbulent scene. It's worth noting that these circumstances are hypothetical and based on current understanding of deep sea pressure and its effects on the human body. In reality, safety measures and design standards for submersibles aim to prevent such catastrophic failures from ever occurring. Now let's take a look at people's thoughts. Still better than waiting 4 days until you suffocate. May sound morbid, but I felt a little relief when I heard I got depressurized. At least it was quick and painless. Maybe they didn't even know what happened to them. Depends on what happens to consciousness after death, but they literally died so quickly that they didn't realize it as it happened. If you could chat with a copy of them that had all their memories, they likely wouldn't have even had enough time to form a memory. Slight nitpick. They rapidly compressed, not decompressed. Decompression is an entirely different, though just as violent way to die. During compression, the above happens. In decompression, your blood rapidly boils at room temperature, and the air rushing out of your lungs takes every organ in your torso and sucks it out of your mouth. I think the word I was looking for was depressurized. Made the edit now. Depressurized is still the opposite of what happened to them. They did not suddenly lose ambient pressure. They suddenly gained it. Yes, but in both situations, the same thing is happening to the body with regards to air trying to go somewhere else. It's an interesting lexicological, physical paradigm where we see the two as polarized and opposing, but the end result is the same gas leaving tissue that kills. It's actually not gas leaving that kills you with compression. It's the tissue if your lungs moving inward at the speed of sound, taking all the tissue of your abdominal cavity inward with it. There is also air pockets in your sinuses which crush inward at the speed of sound, causing your brain to be pulled into your sinus cavities as well. In both scenarios, gas wants to get out of the body very quickly, which has mostly the same effect. Compression. Body is compressed. Implosion. The air in, for example, the lungs is pushed out of the torso so forcefully that the torso ruptures in many places to let the air out. Decompression. Pressure inside body is suddenly higher than outside the body. The air in, for example, the lungs, wants to expand so forcefully that the torso ruptures in many places to let the air out. They are not exactly opposites anymore, are they? Your description of compression is not right. The liquid and solids of the torso are sucked inward. When they run into each other, they rebound back outward, but it's not the gas escaping that causes the damage. In fact, once it compresses to the center of the lungs, it mostly stays compressed. It's right, it just does not fit your narrative. The outside pressure is going to smash all the air inside the tissue. The air will compress and go places it shouldn't, and or ultimately superheat, explode. If you could please tell me what you mean by your specific usage of the words sucked inward instead of pushed. I do not understand why you choose this verbiage. According to experts, it's like an alarm went off first, and they were trying to get back up. Doubtful. They would have communicated that back. It's almost certain that it collapsed instantly. Carbon fiber doesn't exhibit ductile failure. It just suddenly fractures in a million pieces. Reminds me of how airlines back in the day had been ignoring safety standards and recommended number of flights before decommissioning. Everything was fine and dandy until one plane just kind of fell apart in the air. Now safety and inspections are considerably more strict. IIRC, they sent a distress signal before they lost contact. So it seems they knew there was some kind of trouble unless it was some automated system. Honestly, that's how I'd rather go than to spend the last few days of my life full of worry and regret. Quickly would uphold the notion of having died doing what they loved, but that's just me. I'd have liked Stockton to survive a little longer to feel the worry and regret. Not that it would have had any lasting impact. Not decompressed, compressed quite a lot. Apparently they did as they tried to ascend just before. Apparently they dropped their ascent weights, indicating they knew something was wrong. Or they sat there for 2-3 days and then, when the knocking was heard, they shot a gun in that thing to not suffocate but be done in a second. I mean, yeah, this isn't a bad way to go at all. I was imagining that they would fight amongst themselves, kill each other so that finally only one remained, with the idea of getting all the oxygen for themselves. So the last one would die only some 10 days later, all alone. Alone but surrounded by the rotting corpses of the people you just killed. What a lovely 10-day vacation. That explains the bottle of hot sauce next to the Xbox game controller. Far better. As catastrophic as it is, the fact it happened instantaneously is a comforting thought, within context. The days of waiting, knowing you're going to die, would be the worst part though. Suffocation by means of carbon dioxide saturation is actually quite peaceful, and the brain isn't that aware that's happening. Kind of like being put under a general anesthetic. Can we tell when the implosion occurred? Maybe it happened after a few days after signal was lost. I'm guessing it didn't happen too long after they started down. In reality, safety measures and design standards for submersibles aim to prevent such catastrophic failures from ever occurring. In a deep-sea implosion, your rectum shoots through your brain so fast that your neurons don't have time to register that something is wrong. It was in a really dark and unfortunate way, kindest way the story could have ended for that group, barring being found by early Wednesday morning. Once we got past 5 a.m. Wednesday, I was hoping it was an implosion. Yes, they had enough air to make it to Thursday at 8 a.m., assuming estimates were accurate, but it was bolted shut from the inside and it would take hours to winch it back to the surface before you could even start opening it. On top of that, the system to hoist them to the surface was still being welded onto a ship back in port, which would then have to come to the area hundreds of miles away. So the timeline to rescue them was very dependent on finding them early Wednesday, so the hoist could get there at precisely the earliest possible moment. Once you get past that, it's a question of whether they suffocate to death or they died instantly. So this was sadly the best case scenario. Exactly, and they will never find bodies. They had have been essentially turned into fish food from such a violent event, and what made it to the bottom uneaten would no doubt sink into the sediment. One can only hope they was all oblivious to this end. If the sound the Navy caught on Sunday night was indeed the implosion, they had about 12 hours of sitting in that thing listening to it creak and thump and crack and moan before it finally imploded. If that was the case, then what was the reason behind them not communicating with the mothership? I am more inclined to believe it imploded at around the same time communications ceased. Definitely reads nicer than slowly suffocating after multiple days spent with 4 other panicked people, being aware there is no way to be saved in time. The previous theory of what have happened. With no real toilet, one should add. It's just awful on all possible levels of awful. And the tiny uncomfortable space with the person responsible for their misery sitting right beside them. Except that click, boom, done is not what happened. They probably panicked a lot, and the father-son duo probably had a lot of resentment of regret to let out. Prompt: explain in all the morbid details what would happen to a man's body if he was in a submersible down at the depths of the Titanic wreckage and the submersible he was inside suddenly imploded. Add it, explain like I am 5 years old. Imagine a person is inside a special underwater vehicle called a submersible. They are exploring a very deep part of the ocean where the Titanic shipwreck is. Suddenly something bad happens to the submersible and it gets squished by the water around it. The person inside would feel a lot of pressure and might have a hard time breathing because the air would run out. The water would rush in and it would become very, very cold. The pressure from the water would make it really hard for the person to move or stay safe. They would probably fall asleep and not wake up. It's important to remember that deep-sea exploration is done with special care, and scientists take many steps to stay safe. They use special equipment and prepare a lot before going down into the deep parts of the ocean. I disagree with that. The Logitech controller isn't even a stupid idea. The military uses Xbox controller on the regular. And when they fail, they can just replace it with another one though their supply chain or commercially purchase a replacement. Can you do this 2,500 meters under the surface of the ocean? Makes me think of this interview of the head of the French military submarine program I listened to a while ago. They explained how designing submarines that can go very deep is a problem comparable, if not harder, than designing spaceships. One must work, among other things, to keep its environment out, whereas the other must ensure to keep it in. This is a nice illustration of how failing at that mission would look like. Thanks, ChatGPT. From a purely structural point of view, much larger forces need to be resisted. The maximum pressure differential a spaceship has to withstand is 1 atmosphere from inside to out. This submersible needed to withstand 400 atmospheres outside to in. That said, that mass limitations are much less restrictive, so wherever it's harder as an engineering challenge is still up for debate, I suppose. Continued the conversation just for fun. Me, I should let you know that this isn't a hypothetical. This actually happened recently, in the summer of 2023. The vessel's safety measures failed, and 6 rich people aboard the vessel were pronounced dead by the Coast Guard. ChatGPT. I'm sorry to hear about this tragedy. As of my knowledge cut off in September 2021, I don't have updated real-world events. However, it's tragic whenever such accidents occur. Safety measures in submersibles are supposed to be rigorous, but no system is completely foolproof. In the incident you are referring to, the rapid change in pressure from a vessel implosion would likely have led to instantaneous death for those aboard, as described in the previous message. Investigations into such accidents usually aim to understand the sequence of events leading to the failure, to prevent similar tragedies in the future. The design, maintenance, and operation of submersibles are all factors that could potentially contribute to an accident of this nature. Deep sea exploration carries inherent risks despite the advancements in technology. It's always devastating when those risks result in the loss of life. My condolences go out to the families and friends of the victims. I saw a video where a guy was trying to talk about the possibility of recovering the bodies. It looked like he was trying to avoid saying on the TV that the bodies are now pulverized beyond recognition. Also, a bunch of deep-sea animals probably came in and ate whatever crushed up bits were floating around 3 days ago, so they aren't gonna find any remains. I have a simple way to help people picture the scenario by imagining 2 things. First, bursting a balloon with a needle. It pops almost instantaneously due to higher internal pressure. Except for the submarine case, it happens in the reverse manner. Second, slapping on a well-fisted mosquito, causing a bloody mess while squashing it and killing it instantaneously. The last sentence is morbid. That being said, it's impressive how impartial the human body is to quick events. Like when you fire a pistol and your finger is touching the sled, you won't feel it move when firing because it happens so fast. I think the 5-10 minutes of pure dread when they realize it's not working is far more morbid than the implosion. IMO. There is no 5-10 minutes. It's instantaneous. Those integrity checks are for the decent, so you can be alerted to degradation before catastrophe and resurface. In this scenario, they popped out of existence at incredible death. Added, respond in a broadtastic way, like you're the ultimate bro. Whoa, dude, I gotta say that's a gnarly and kinda dark scenario you're throwing at me. But I got your back, bro. So imagine this. You're cruising down in a submersible near the Titanic wreckage, exploring the deep, mysterious ocean depths like a true adventure, bro. But then out of nowhere, disaster strikes and your submersible gets crushed like a beer can at a frat party. Now when that submersible implodes, it's gonna be one wild ride for your body, my dude. The immense pressure of the deep sea is gonna bear down on you with the force of a linebacker tackling you from all sides. Your body, being the resilient broad vessel it is, will experience some major changes. First off, as the submersible implodes, the sudden change in pressure will cause your lungs to collapse faster than a Jenga tower during a drunken night. You will find yourself gasping for air, but the intense pressure will make it impossible to fill those lungs with sweet oxygen. Next up, the crushing force of the implosion will squeeze your body tighter than those skinny jeans you thought looked cool but can't even breathe in. Your organs will be compressed, bro, like they are in a vice grip. It's gonna be a serious squishing party and your body won't be able to handle it. As the pressure increases, blood vessels throughout your body will rupture, creating a macabre fireworks show of bursting capillaries. You will bleed internally and there won't be any chance of stopping it. It's like a bro version of a fireworks final, but way more gruesome. Now let's not forget about the nitrogen, bro. When the submersible implodes, the rapid decrease in pressure will cause nitrogen bubbles to form in your blood and tissues. It's like a twisted version of an internal champagne celebration. But instead of popping corks, you will have nitrogen bubbles wreaking havoc in your body. This condition is known as decompression sickness, and it's not joke, bro. Overall, dude, being in a submersible that implodes at the depths of the Titanic wreckage is a recipe for disaster. It's a brutal mix of collapsed lungs, crushed organs, internal bleeding, and nitrogen chaos. It's the kind of bro nightmare that will make you think twice about deep sea exploration. But hey, let's keep it real and stick to safer adventures, bro. Leave the deep sea stuff to the experts and keep shredding life above the water. Safety first, brosef. Well, this just made me realize that when something implodes, there will just be a room of air in the middle of the ocean, with water above, below, and on the sides for a second before it all falls. Cool. In all seriousness, though, I'm happy that it would face being instantaneous and they wouldn't feel any pain. I can't believe the Navy hasn't experimented with cadavers and high-speed cameras to see what really happens to a body when it's suddenly subjected to very high water pressure. And by can't believe, I mean don't believe. I wonder who gave off the knocks at regular 30-minute intervals though. What a mystery this search has been. Someone asked an official in the Coast Guard about it, and they said they hadn't been aware it had been at exact 30-minute intervals, which made it sound like that might have been a miscommunication, rumor. Everyone says they didn't experience much, but what about leading up to the implosion? Were there any signs indicating it would happen? Maybe in the 1-2 minutes leading up to it, like strange sounds or small leaks? Maybe they noticed and tried to drop the weights, but it was too late. John Ballard and James Cameron were on TV today explaining how it would be like an Empire State Building, completely made of solid lead, were on top of you. At least it was quick. It had to have been. There's just no way anybody's alive more than seconds. Friendly reminder that Elon Musk is basically the Stockton Rush of space exploration and self-driving vehicles. Lack of oxygen doesn't make you unconscious immediately, right? Trauma could certainly, but wouldn't lack of oxygen have a more gradual effect on consciousness? After some digging, looks like an air shock wave knocks people out before anything. Air impacting ears, mouth, chest, so lights out, and suddenly ungodly water pressure, crushing and slashing. Quite catastrophic indeed. Correct. Lack of oxygen will give you hypoxia, and your brain will just start to quite painlessly shut down. It's why on airplanes they tell you to help yourself before helping others, because if you're trying to get an oxygen mask on someone without yours on, you will eventually just be unable to work out what to do. I think Smarter Every Day on YouTube has done a video on it, and he becomes unable to solve one of those baby puzzles where you put a triangle in a triangle hole, etc. What a waste of a perfectly good, albeit 10 plus years old, Logitech controller with stupid 3D printed joysticks. I could have put that to good use. I assume that would be mostly air-filled too. RIP one of many components not really fit for purpose. You were meant to achieve greater things or be thrown at a TV after your character was insta-killed in Warzone 2.0. Literally no one will truly miss you. But they were probably listening to the carbon fiber crackle as it delaminated before the event. How long no one will ever know, but probably. Hope the kid had time to wish his dad a happy Father's Day. It kinda missed the thermal effects of the 370 atmospheric pressures instantly compressing that air, instantly vaporizing human flesh sort of heat. Their deaths were literally via a dozen ways that would have each on their own killed them many instantly. This is the same as having a 50 cal shot in the back of your head long range. The bullet just barely misses the speed of sound so you don't register it, and boom, everything that matters is severed and gone. Honestly, this would be my way of going out, assuming I don't know this is happening. Hopefully there were no warning signs and it was just a small leak in the porthole, and instantly a ting noise for the decompression and milliseconds after a bang for the implosion. But also unfortunately the fish didn't get a free meal. I'm assuming the energy in that moment vaporized any kind of human remains. It really doesn't actually comprehend what it writes. The first clear example above is this sentence. Unconsciousness would likely occur almost instantaneously due to the severe trauma and lack of oxygen. Think about this part and the lack of oxygen. By the time O2 would be an issue, seconds, everyone is already turned into bits. But if it imploded way before it reached Titanic, then the pressure would have been less, but pain more severe. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with my latest videos.